Hello folks, welcome to the Self-Love Sessions. I'm Polly, I'll be your host, and Happy New Year. So if you haven't yet checked out these podcasts, we're going to be talking all things self-love, spirituality, energy healing, tips, tools, tricks from the Kundalini Yoga world to help you heal from the inside out. So today we're going to be talking about healing beyond the physical and discovering a transformative path within. So stay tuned if that sounds like your bag. Now, when we're talking about healing, something very physical, because that's the subject of today, it's not just the tangible form that we need to start to look at. Often, because we're humans, we tend to look at what we can see, what we can touch, what we can feel, what's there with our two eyes, what we can put our hands on in a very tangible way, what we can sense with our five main senses, right? When we address healing just from that very surface level, it's not got the depth to it that we actually need to start to look at when it comes to healing something physical. So today I'm going to be talking about the three facets of a human being. The human being has got a threefold structure, and that is the body, the mind, and the spirit. Now, I'm going to get into these three facets during this podcast and how we can start to look at these three facets of a human being to be able to heal our physical body. Okay, quick backstory. I have recently had heartburn that's been lasting for 6 months. It was triggered by stress, totally different story, at the beginning of last year, and stress can trigger a lot of things. And then it just never seemed to be able to heal. Now, there's many healing journeys that I've been on in my life when it comes to the physical, whether it's been injury, from sports, whether it's been something like this, something like the heartburn, some discomfort in the body, all of these different things that we go for as humans. You've probably been through them yourself. There's always something in the human being to heal. Now, there's an old Chinese proverb. I think it's a Chinese proverb. Sounds like a Chinese proverb. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, when we heal something, everything heals. And I do have quite a big leaning towards that, because although we have little bits in our life that feel completely in flow and completely aligned, we have other bits that feel a little bit misaligned and not quite in flow, and things we would want to change. Of course, we're humans, right? But when we start to heal and look at some of the depth of where that pain, discomfort, dis-ease, injury is coming from, when we look into the three facets of a human being, body, mind, and spirit, then we can really start to heal on a much deeper level. And that starts to become like a positive ripple effect and commands our life. Okay, so let's get into it. I want to talk about the body first and foremost. Like the body, sure, we have one. We're humans. So we have this physical vessel that carries us from A to B in life. And what we're trying to do, I suppose, is to keep that vessel as functioning as possible so that we can get to A to B in the most comfortable way, right? Similar to like if we had a car or, a vehicle of some sort. We wouldn't want to put diesel in a petrol car or petrol in a diesel car, because it wouldn't run correctly, because it's not the right fuel for that vehicle. Okay, that is just the same thing as the human body. Whatever we fuel the human body with is the energy that we will spurt out. So Not that I'm going to get into things like nutrition and all that sort of thing here. It's much more of an overview. Because if you stay to the end of this podcast, I'm going to tell you where the depth of healing comes. And it's not just the physical body. So stay tuned. The physical body is tangible. We can see it, we can touch it. We first experience life as a child through touch, one of our main senses, through sight, through the two eyes, the two main eyes that we can see and see from, through hearing, through the sense of taste, right? Through eating things, tasting things, we start to be able to understand our place, where we are, our environment, what's going on. We understand our energy, how we can uplift our energy, how we can soften our energy. And we start to understand the world through these things. Touch, taste, sight, hearing, and the last one being smell, when it comes to these very the main five senses, if you like. So when we're children and we're moving through life, we really get this massive sensory experience of life, right? Through these five main senses. And these are things that are they're tangible. As we move through life, they are things that we can relate something to because of. Yeah, that colour is X because everybody's told us it is. Or we've developed a pattern that makes us believe that that is, so that we can start to move through these social circles and this 3D physical world that we're living in with more ease, with more understanding, with more cognitive understanding as well, so we know our place in the world, right? So often when one of these senses is not functioning in the same way as one of the other senses, for example, other senses are then heightened. So if somebody is short of sight or hearing or touch or even taste, if the taste buds aren't there, they're not as heightened as other people's. Often other of their senses start to heighten. So in yoga, we call this pratyahara, which basically means sense withdrawal. So when we start to withdraw a sense from our being, our sensory being, we start to be able to tune in to other senses on a deeper level. Now, this is really important for what I'm about to say when it comes to healing. So wait around, because I'm going to be talking about this when it comes to spirit, one of the third main facets of a human being. Okay, so body, that's a little overview of the body. We move through life with a tactile sensory experience so we can understand the world and we can know our place in our environment, right? And so obviously, when it comes to the interaction that we have with the outside and the inside world, that is one of our main points of healing. So, for example, the food that we put into our body is our source of energy. It's our first point of energy. But it's not just the food that we ingest. It's also the information that we ingest through our senses, the emotions that we work with and how we allow ourselves to feel or not feel them, how we address or suppress them. It really contributes to the way in which we heal anyway. So all of these different things come into play, obviously, with healing. But for example, if we were to think about the body, and let's say we have a sprained ankle, for example, it's much deeper than just the physical healing of the ankle. And that's where the mind and that's where the spirit come in. So if you were to have a a sprained ankle, for example, and you're doing all the right things for your physical healing, maybe you're going to the physiotherapist, maybe you've been suggested some acupuncture, maybe you've been suggested some stretches, some movement, some yoga, some mobility, some rest, whatever it is that you've been suggested to help heal that physical injury in the ankle. And you've noticed, great, I'm doing all these things, but it's still not healing. It's still not working. I'm still like 25 million years down the line, and I've got this really sort of like out of balance, out of alignment in my ankle, and it's affecting, like they call it in physiotherapy, the sling effect in the body, where it's starting to affect right ankle, left hip, left shoulder, and you're starting to create this pattern of pain, a pain pattern throughout the body from compensating for that unhealed ankle, if you like. So you're doing all the right things physically, but the pain is staying there and the healing is not progressing. So what can you look at instead of just looking at that one tangible form in the physical body? Great, we've looked at the first facet of a human being. We've looked at the first place of healing in the physical. You're doing that because you're doing all the things that have been suggested by all the wonderful professionals out there, and it's not working. Then the next thing we need to come into is the mind, okay? Body-mind connection are one of the most powerful ways to start to heal something physical. Now, if you are just doing the physical stuff and the healing is not there, the next thing to address is, where is my mind at? Am I speaking progressively and kindly towards myself during this healing, or am I shaming myself into healing? Am I shaming myself into change? And just the difference between those two ways of speaking to ourselves is going to start to contribute to the healing process, because the human is not just one thing. It is a combination of all of those three facets: body, mind, and spirit. And all three of those facets need to be aligned, married up for true healing to take place. So you've addressed the physical, you come to the mind. How am I speaking to myself? Now I'm going to give you an example. As I've been suffering with this heartburn, which is, to tell you the truth, has been driving me absolutely bonkers, and at the beginning of it, I'm not going to lie, I was shaming myself with the heartburn, right? I work in the health and healing industry. I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. I'm a spiritual teacher. These things are my forte, right? And so often, if you work in the industry yourself, in the holistic industry, you'll recognize that if you have something like an injury, or you have some form of something where the body seems to be failing you, right? You start to think, oh, shit, am I a fraud or something? Because I'm teaching how to heal, but I'm not able to heal myself. So all these sort of negative narratives and uncomfortable and unkind stories started to come back into my own psyche as I was going through healing this heartburn, this chronic heartburn. And I recognize that. So I'm like, right, I'm doing all of the things that I know to do through many, many years of studying nutrition, and I'm still not healing. So the physical stuff's there. I had to address the mind. I had to look at the mind and where the mind was actually taking me on a day-to-day journey, and whether it was actually working with my physical healing or against it. Okay, so just simply changing the mantra. Man means mind in mantra. Tra means vehicle in mantra, a vehicle to transform the mind. Change the mantra, change your life. Now I know this because I teach mantra, okay? And I know how unbelievably effective it is for reprogramming the mind. But sometimes it's not easy to see the wood for the trees when you're living in your own body and in your own head, right? So I recognized that I needed to change the mantra for my healing. I was being unkind to myself. It was bringing up insecurities from the past. They weren't helpful because somewhere along the lines, there's a good chance that that heartburn has been caused from something that's unhealed or unprocessed in the past in the first place. So I was feeding that pattern. I was feeding that behavioral pattern, if you like. So as soon as I started to change the mantra, and every single time something popped into my mind that was unkind, that was against my progression for healing, I recognized it with awareness and flipped the script. So this is what I want to teach you today when it comes to the mind and when it comes to healing. To be able to look at that facet, if you like, I'm going to call it the second facet. Body will call the first, mind will call the second, spirit will call the third, even though it's a bit muddled around than that. But just for the aim of the podcast, let's go for that. When I wanted to come and work with the mind, the thing that is so important that if you are not doing, is going to be the thing that stumbles you up for the healing progress. And that is becoming awareness, becoming aware of the thoughts that you are thinking, the feelings and the emotions that you are having in regards to this thing that you're wanting to heal. And becoming the observer and the watchman of those thoughts. If those thoughts are bringing you down and are going in the opposite direction of purpose, progression, moving forward, helpfulness towards your healing, if they are digressing and bringing you back into a state of unkindness, stress, anxiety, all of these things that possibly caused it in the first place, then it's really important to become aware of those thoughts and how you can switch them up in the day. Okay? So for example, say the thoughts were, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Why me? What have I done to have to deserve this illness, this dis-ease, this discomfort, this challenge in my life? You know, if you feel that stress and anxiety and overthinking and worry are creeping in life, because they do more when you're in pain, right? How can you become aware of those things and flip the script? It might be that you have to fake it till you make it. So you become aware of the narrative inside of your head and then you go, stop. Make some form of contribution with the physical body to click you, move you, snap you, clap you, scream you, shout you, shake you out of the pattern that is not serving you. So if you want to change a pattern, a mental thought pattern, a narrative in the mind, you have to switch it up. Okay, because when we start to go down into a pattern, we go into this little rabbit hole and our body starts to respond to that narrative. It starts to respond to the anxiety and the worry and the stress that we're causing from that mental loop, right? That's taking us back to square one. And so the body starts to curl up. It sends signals then to the nervous system that say, I'm anxious, I'm not well, I'm feeling unwell and I'm never going to get rid of it. Yeah. So you then start coming to that catch-22 where you're in a loop of not being able to heal because your physical body's not doing it, then the mind's overthinking, then the mind sends signals back to the physical body and then it dampens your spirit, right? And all three facets are just going round on this big conveyor belt of healing a little bit, then the mind becomes a bully, then the body starts to respond to the mind, then the spirit gets dampened. And it just keeps going round and round and round like that. So really good tip in the day when you're working with the mind facet, change your state. If you notice that you are overthinking on the sofa about your healing, if you notice that you are slumping or you're in bed or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're feeding into that negative mindset of I'm not healed, I'm not well, literally change your physical state. I like to sort of clap and say stop, switch. I actually say the words, and then I'll start to encourage a more positive affirmation like I am healing, I am well, I am healthy. I am healing, I am well, I am healthy. I am healing, I am well, I am healthy. I am healing, I am well, I am healthy. And I'll repeat it over and over again. Because what you repeatedly say, you become. Similar to that thing, you are what you eat. You are what you actually think. So that's where the mind can come into play when it comes to your healing. If you attach yourselves to that negative spiral, then that's the response you're going to get. If you clap yourself out, change your state, do a bit of energy work, a bit of yoga, a simple stop. I want to change my mindset to something more productive for my healing, and I'm going to go for it. Put a smile on your face and just change these tiny little interactions with yourself and with the world around you, and repeat it over and over and over again. I am, the mantra of the heart space. I am well, I am healed, I am healing. Your ego's going to want to go, or your negative mind rather, is going to want to go, but you're not, stop saying you are, because you're not. And it wants to go back into that victim role and hold you back. But this is where you develop that strength of spirit and bring your awareness to the positive mind instead, which is going to balance out and eventually start to help with that healing. So body, mind, both play a part in the healing. Sometimes I might even want to say that the mind plays a deeper part in the healing than the body. Okay. Finally, before we go, I want to talk about the third facet, which I actually think is the main facet because it's spirit, and you've probably heard this little saying, we are just spirit covered in matter, right? Now, the spirit, just because we can't see spirit, maybe I'm going to call this consciousness, conscious awareness, right? Just because we can't see that continuum, that unity, that infinite around and inside of us, it doesn't mean to say that it is not there, right? We can't see love, but we can feel it. Sure? So, we can't see Wi-Fi, but we simply, well, what do we have a meltdown if it's not there. So, just because something's not there from our physical sight, because humans like tangible things, it doesn't mean to say that it's not playing a huge part in your healing, in healing the physical. Now, when it comes to spirit, let's think about spirit. I'm going to address it in a very practical way. Let's think about spirit as bringing yourself into the present moment in flow with life, back into your heart space and out of the head space. Now, this is what I would say is the biggest thing you can possibly do for healing something physical, is connect to yourself on a deeper spiritual level. I don't mean you have to be singing Kumbaya and all this sort of thing. I mean spiritual. Spirit means a path within to oneself to recognize the wholeness of who we already are. Because within that space, we are conscious awareness. Within that space, we are divine. Within that space, we are creation. We are all of creation. And that space is already healed. Okay? That space is already healed. So when we can connect to that light inside of us, that already healed space, everything on the outside, the physical body and the mind, are much easier to address and heal and love and care for in this physical world. So a really good thing that you can do to help heal the physical body, apart from your physical things that you know are good for you, apart from the mental state, the mental attitude that we've just been talking about, one of the most fantastic things you can do to help heal the physical body is to connect to your spirit, connect to a deeper sense of you. And a couple of ways you can do that are, first and foremost, mindful movement with the breath. The breath is, if anything inside of us, sorry, frog throat. If anything inside of us is divine, it is the breath. The breath means we are alive. The breath means we are alive and kicking and present. This is such a beautiful gift. And when we can bring ourselves back to the breath, whether that's through movement, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through just a moment sitting with the breath and focusing on maybe what it is around you, you know, the nature or plants in your house, or the fact that you are alive in this moment. Without any stimuli, so removing all of this TVs, you know, everything, just sitting with oneself. Connecting back to the breath very mindfully and connecting back to the present moment allows us to have a deeper connection to who we really are. It allows us to feel whole. Now, I'm going to leave you with my absolute favourite way to connect to the spirit, to connect deeper to ourselves on a conscious level. And that is energy work, okay? It doesn't matter what energy work you do. It's all about finding something that suits you, okay? Because you want to be able to do it. And people don't do stuff that they don't like. So really it is about finding something that you like, that you can enjoy and you can incorporate into your daily routine that allows you to connect to yourself beyond the mind, beyond the physical body, to your energy body, to your chakras, to your that inner world that's going on that we can't see, but it's very, very alive, to your heart space, yeah, to your soul. And that comes through looking inward. So any energy work, yoga, Kundalini yoga is my favorite, not being biased or anything, but it is. It's so effective. Forms of meditation, however, I do feel if you have a very overthinking mind that movement is more important than the meditation because it allows you to come into meditation with much more ease. Anything that you love as a hobby, right? If you love singing or you love dancing or you love listening to music or you like writing or you like poetry or you like skiing or, you know, I like rock climbing and running and all of these things, these are going to connect you to your spirit. This is what you live for, right? You live for these beautiful moments in life where you feel alive with yourself and you are in flow with life and living. Do these things because these are so healing for us. Okay, I'm going to leave you there. Little overview, if you want to heal the physical, you have to think about the whole threefold structure of a human being. Body, mind, spirit. Are you addressing all of those things when it comes to healing? Let me know in the comments, and lovely to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I shall see you next week. Hi guys, thanks for watching that video with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it means the world to me. If you would like to watch any more videos, there's 2 here just for you.